Welcome back to r/LegalAdvice, where people ask questions, get advice, and we get satisfaction. If you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is from Canada, and it is titled Delinquent Child Support Case. Hello all, my mother and father are about to have their court date over my father's long past due child support. Here are the basics. Original child support court case ruled that my father had to pay $400 a month for both my younger brother and myself, $800 total based on 2-day per week visitation, which in reality was about 2 days per year until each of us turned 19 years old, not 18 for some reason. My father is/was a truck driver and would switch jobs whenever child support caught up with him to avoid paying. By the time my brother turned 19, my father owed a principal of about $100,000. And now 6 years later, the total owed, including interest, is around $400,000. My father just inherited about $400,000 from my grandmother, but the trust states he should receive this money in payments of $2,000 per month, so he won't spend it all. He also hired a lawyer to take my mother to court to reduce the amount of child support he owes. He claims he does not owe my mother any money, but has zero evidence to back this up, whereas my mother has records on payment from CA. He and his lawyer tried to settle out of court by offering my mom a payment of $25,000. She turned this down. They are now asking her to come back to them with a number, but I advised her to just let it go to court. He is currently in a court case to get his inheritance in a lump sum and using the debt he owes my mom as an excuse for why he needs all the money at once, while simultaneously trying to get out of paying my mom the amount he supposedly needs a lump sum to pay, because he is a con artist. My questions are, number 1, is there any way the court would rule that my father owes less money now that both myself and my brother are of age, or will the courts most likely rule he owes what he owes and must pay? Number 2, would the money owed to my mom be taken out of the total inheritance amount, or would the courts rule it could only be taken out of his monthly payment of $2,000? It seems like if the answer is the latter, this could be used as a loophole to avoid paying back debt. And a user in the comments said, I'll be honest, we are talking about relatively big numbers here, and you are giving your mother advice prior to even coming here and asking questions. And no one here is going to be able to give you specific enough answers to give your mother competent advice. Your mother needs an attorney. And the next one is an update to the child support story. The court dropped the initial amount owed due to a court filling error during the divorce, which made my parents legally married for about 1.5 years after they had submitted divorce paperwork. CA courts say, oops, finally agreed upon amount was around $390,000. My father disputed this amount but never submitted any evidence because there was none, so that amount was final. The second court case today for the inheritance money, where my mother was made a plaintiff. Father tried to claim he worked for my grandfather and my grandfather paid the child support for him. Neither of those are true, but I guess he forgot to mention that during the child support case and the judge did not want to hear it. Also claimed he has a great relationship with both of his sons. I stopped talking to him when I was 13, which is more than half my life ago, and my brother does not really know him so well since he was gone basically my brother's entire life. The judge ruled totally in favor of my mother, so the $190,000 my father was said to inherit is being given directly to my mom. The judge also ruled my father has to continue paying $700 a month, which is what the previous child support hearing had determined due to the $2,000 monthly payments he was originally supposed to receive in inheritance money. The best part is my father tried to settle out of court for $25,000. My mother is elated. My father has been mocking her for years over this, telling her she would never get her money. My mother never spent any money on herself and instead tried to make sure that my brother and I did not miss out on anything because we had just one parent around. She has almost nothing for retirement now since she had to take out of her 401k a lot, and since she got laid off 6 months before she was eligible for retirement. This is pretty much the best thing that has happened to my family in quite some time. I don't live by my mom, but will be sending my brother some money to buy a nice bottle of champagne. And I gotta say guys, that is a very surprising happy ending, and I am really happy for OP that things turned out the way they did. If you ask me, the father definitely got what he deserved. And the next one is titled, How can I get my neighbors to get rid of their noisy chickens? I live in a big urban city in California. For some reason my neighbors thought it would be a great idea to build a chicken coop and have 5 chickens in their backyard. These chickens are the noisiest creatures I have ever heard. They only have chickens, not roosters, but they squawk loudly all day, and as all the houses are literally right next to each other, again, big urban city, it is basically like having a farm in my backyard from 6 AM to 10 PM every day. I think the law in our city allows them to have up to 5 small farm animals, but is there any way around this considering all the noise and disruption they are making? It literally makes it impossible to sleep in my house when the chickens are awake, and all the other neighbors on our block hate them as well. I am also open to less legal ways of removing the chickens. Chicken pot pie, anyone? But figured I might as well start above board. And a user in the comments wrote, California is a big state and what you are asking about will largely depend on local ordinances. Nevertheless, here are a couple of suggestions. So first, check to see if the chickens are legal in the first place. You can find local ordinance information here. And number 2, if the chickens are conforming to the ordinance, then cross-reference your local noise ordinances and make complaints that way. You will want to check out the chicken laws first because many of those ordinances address noise as well, and you want to reference those as well. And guys, if you have watched until here, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you want to support me. Thank you so much in advance. And the next one is an update to the chicken story. I posted this post about 3 years ago and it got very little attention, but some people did help, and for that I was and am super grateful. Plus I figured we all like update posts, and this situation of chicken warfare is finally resolved. To recap, my neighbors had 5 chickens that would squawk at ungodly hours of the morning and night, and they were actually my parents' neighbors. I was crashing with them over the summer and have since moved out. We did contact the city, who came and determined that they were up to code, but the neighbors assumed it was us. My parents had been pretty vocal in the neighborhood about not liking the chickens, and they decided to retaliate. First, they claimed that a structure on my parents' property was illegal, and my parents had to deal with a city investigation, which turned up nothing, because it was not illegal. Next, they claimed that our little patch of sidewalk front yard, which is right next to theirs, was actually infringing on their property and demanded a property survey. We actually discovered that their front garden was partially on our land, so that was nice. My mother emailed the neighbors letting them know that they were going to put up a little line of stones just to keep the garden property line clear so that they could plant their side, and the neighbors went bad crap crazy. Started sending long rambling emails to my parents, started calling and hanging up, started throwing trash on our side of the garden, and they eventually left several dead rodents still in traps on our front porch. After that, my parents got a security camera. Things quieted down for a while, and we soon found out it was because the neighbors were trying to sell the house. Their house is pretty nice, and we live in a high COL city in a neighborhood that has really gotten popular in the past 10 years. Basically, if all went well, the neighbors would be making $2 or $3 million from the sale. They hosted several open houses, and this is where my dad decided to get petty. See, my parents' deck directly faced the neighbor's backyard, which still had the chicken coop and was one of the main attractions of the open house. They were actually trying to sell it as an urban farmhouse. As people would wander into the backyard of the open house, my dad would stand on his deck holding a very large sign that said, "No chickens in this neighborhood." The other said, "They bring rats and vermin into our lovely community." I was half horrified, half cracking up. I told him that it would only escalate things, but he was insistent that any new neighbors not be allowed to keep the chickens. He would periodically shout down into the neighbor's yard. Our houses were very close. "We will not allow new neighbors to keep chickens." My parents got many furious calls and emails from the realtor and the neighbors. Apparently my dad was making people hesitant to buy the home. I don't blame them, he was acting like a crazy person. Offers were dwindling and they were going to have to lower the price. My dad said he would stop his chicken protest if the coop was removed. The chickens stayed, so my dad stayed on his deck for every single open house. To make a long story of chicken subterfuge short, the neighbors sold the house. On their last night in the house, they egged my parents' entire backyard and deck, and I asked my dad if he wanted to report it, and he said it would be better to be rid of them. A lovely family has since moved in, and the first thing they did was dismantle the coop. So guys, I am curious, what would you have done if your neighbor suddenly decided to have chickens in an urban area? To be honest, I cannot even imagine the audacity you need to have to do something like this. And the last one is titled, "One bedroom flat offer withdrawn by housing association after disclosing pregnancy." Hey all, I am a frequent lurker here under another account and have learned a huge amount from my lurks here. So thanks for the education you provide and also for all the help and advice I've seen you provide to other people. I did not anticipate ever needing to ask for advice myself, but here I am. I will try and provide as much info as possible in my initial post, but happy to provide more in comments if needed. In December 2019, I was issued with a Section 21 notice. No fault, my landlord wanted vacant possession to carry out works, but has since decided to sell the block instead. I qualified for an intermediate rental property via an arrangement my local council has with various housing associations and was placed on the list, although little was available because of the time of the year. In early February, I put in for a one-bedroom flat in my affordability range. In a development still under construction, I was made an offer by the housing association and subsequently allocated a flat in the development. Despite the allocation, no tenancy has yet been signed. The block was initially due for completion in late February and early March. I would skip over the endless COVID-related delays to completion. It has been a saga, but the housing association finally accepted completion this week. Hurrah! In the meantime, the property manager for my current place has been relatively decent and patient as far as it goes, although I am definitely under renewed pressure to vacate. Further, since I used to share this place with my ex before December, I can no longer afford the rent alone. It is almost 2 times what my rent would be in the new place, and I am virtually out of savings by now, having had to stay here alone so long already. I am in the 2nd month of an unplanned but welcome pregnancy. Well, it is no welcome after the initial horror and shock passed. The father and I are not in a position to live together, although we remain good friends and intend to co-parent. I disclosed my pregnancy to the housing association and they have withdrawn the offer of the one-bedroom flat. They have stated in an email that it is their policy to not allow anyone pregnant to rent a one-bedroom flat. Don't worry, I have requested a copy of this policy. They have offered me a 2-bedroom flat in the same development, but their minimum income requirement for that flat is more than double my full-time above median salary. But they are very firm on refusing a 1-bedroom flat to me because of my pregnancy. I have hunted around for any potential best practice rationale for this policy and cannot find it. The baby is not due till February, so it would be just me renting the place in the meantime. Even after February, there's no risk of overcrowding in a 1-bedroom flat if it is just a single woman and a baby. Let's be realistic, we will be spending pretty much all of our time together in the same room anyway for at least a year, likely longer. As I understand the overcrowding standards, for the purposes of overcrowding, children under the age of 1 year are not counted at all. Children under the age of 10 are only half of a person, so overcrowding cannot be the rationale here. Owing to my work, I have some understanding of the Equality Act and its provisions around discrimination, and it seems that this issue might contravene Section 33 relating to disposal of premises, and I would have to bring action under Section 17. The shelter helpline is too busy for calls at the moment. I have emailed my council tenancy advisors, but they are only really supposed to advise on private tenancies. So I would be grateful to get some advice from any of the regulars here about what my next steps ought to be. Thanks in advance for any guidance and advice on what to do next. And a user in the comments said, just a different way of attacking this. Obviously for you and the little one, a 2-bedroom property would be more suitable if obviously you could get over the cost hurdle. Have you looked at a benefit checker like entitled.to to see if baby would change your circumstances such that it would get you over that hurdle? And guys, if you were in that situation, what would you suggest OP to do? Let us know in the comments. And the next one is titled, Update, 1-bedroom flat offer withdrawn by housing association after disclosing pregnancy. Just thought I would provide an update since one commenter was claiming to be a senior in a housing association and was adamant that I was wrong, that the issue was one of illegal discrimination. Turns out I wasn't. Thank you to the commenter who provided me with legal advice, and thank you to the commenter who provided me with a bit of sympathy, moral support and practical advice. In addition to the advice I received from the shelter and the EASS, I had a proper consultation with a solicitor from a large firm with a team specializing in discrimination cases. I initially had brief discussions with 2 firms and chose one as I felt they had good communication and seemed more efficient than the other. The solicitor confirmed that I certainly had my facts straight and said she would not feel right charging me money to write a letter saying exactly the same things as I had already said to the housing association. I was very pleased with her for that. She did the good/right thing rather than just take my money, which she could have. So I am happy to share the firm's name if anyone needs advice for anything similar. She recommended I write everything up formally with the links to the relevant legislation that I had provided in my emails, illustrate how stressful the whole thing was for me, and escalate through the housing association's complaints procedure and copy in senior directors. She said that if they failed to resolve it before the deadline, they would set for reallocation of the flat. I should come back to her for representation, but again she stressed that she would not be saying anything to them that I had not already said. For good measure, I copied in my MP, who has a long and excellent reputation for her genuine interest in housing issues. Within 48 hours, the housing association had reversed their decision. So the referencing was completed on Monday, just gone, and I was able to collect my keys and have the check-in this afternoon. The flat is actually even more spacious than I remembered from the initial viewing all those months ago, so I have a bit more space to play with than I had been planning for. Looking forward to moving my belongings into my new home over the next few days and leaving my current place behind next week. And I suppose I would better start thinking about nesting a little bit. Once I've got settled and know my monthly outgoings going forward, I will be increasing my existing, small but long-running, standing order to the shelter because they were great. I think they are probably going to have a lot of demand for their advice lines with the predicted increase in evictions over the coming months, so if you want to donate or volunteer, you can find out how here. Have a lovely weekend you all. And guys, unfortunately we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested, and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.